Great. Hello, everybody. My name's Ann Ball. I'm a program director at Maine Development Foundation, overseeing the Maine Downtown Center program. And I've met many of you, but it's nice to see you virtually. Cara and Phyllis and I, pre-pandemic, were like, all right, we'll do all these trainings with you because you are our newest community. And then things got more complicated, but I'm glad that we are doing this. I think this is a great general starting point for a lunchtime conversation, and I will stick to ending at 1 o'clock because I know people have places to go. I want to make sure that the other team members from MDF say hello, so I'll call on them, and then I'd love to hear who you guys are, and I'll call on you. So Adam, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Adam Burke and I work with Ann in the Maine Downtown Center. You'll probably hear more of me, particularly in relationship to the Main Street Fellows program. But I'm here to learn along with you and excited to spend the next hour with you.
And Joanna.
Hi everybody, I'm Joanna Crisp. I work with Ann and Adam at the Maine Downtown Center. And I started with MDC in late January, and I haven't actually heard this 4 points presentation yet from Ann. So I am also excited to learn alongside all of you today.
Ann, would you like to introduce yourself? And I'd love to hear from the Ellsworth people just who you are and what your connection is to downtown. Are you a business owner, and what is it? Do you own property? Are you a resident, or why are you here today? So
Hi,
Ann, we'll start with
I'm
you.
Keith, and I'm a resident of Ellsworth, and I was very much involved with Kara for the initial application to become a downtown Main Street organization. So it was great fun, and I look forward to being more involved.
Great, thanks Ann. And Courtney?
Hi, I'm the newest board member, I believe, of part of Ellsworth. I've been an Ellsworth resident for 4 years now. I moved to Ellsworth to start a position as a professor at College of the Atlantic. I'm really excited to be a part of the organization.
Thank you. Peter.
Where did Peter go? Oh, there.
We have to take him off.
Yes.
Mute.
Hi.
There we go. Yeah.
Resident of Ellsworth, a member of part of Ellsworth, and retired, and a Ellsworth volunteer.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And Julie?
Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Vittum. I work for Machias Savings Bank. I'm also a board member, and I've been a member of the Heart of Ellsworth since its inception. And community member for my whole life, pretty much resident of Ellsworth for 40 plus years. So, and worked in downtown on one end of the street or the other for over 25 years. So a lot of connections to.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for Machias Savings support of both Heart of Ellsworth and also the Maine Downtown Center. They are a generous supporter of our work as well.
Happy we can do it.
And Nate.
Yeah, I'm Nate Hansen. I'm a board member of Heart of Ellsworth and a resident of Ellsworth, a little out of downtown. I run Pinniped Kayak, which is small business, not really downtown. I'm mostly a community member and parent on the board, I'd say. I'm also a board member of Frenchman Bay Conservancy, so I'm a bit of a bridge between the work that we do with them.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Nate. Okay, I don't know what Padme. How do we, did I say that right?
That's Phyllis.
Oh.
Nope, sorry, that's Amy.
Amy.
No,
Amy.
it's Amy. Amy, yeah.
You need to unmute, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Amy Reisman. I'm a downtown resident of Ellsworth. I'm a community volunteer in Ellsworth, and I'm a current board member, part of Ellsworth.
Thank you, Amy. John?
Yeah, hey,
Hi.
I'm John. I am a board member of Heart of Ellsworth, I guess for the past few years now. I own Fogtown Brewing Company right in downtown, and I live a couple blocks away right in downtown as well. And I am curious and becoming more involved in city goings-on.
Great. Thank you, John. Artful Aid. Who is that?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there. Nice
Yeah.
to meet you. Heidi Stanton Drew. I am a resident of Ellsworth out in what we call almost Otis, which is almost not Ellsworth anymore. And I have a service business called The Artful Aid. And I work with Heart of Ellsworth in many different capacities. Specifically, Cara asked me to join today to have a better understanding of the 4-point program because I do help in the back end with social media and other marketing efforts. So having a good sense of this will be helpful. So
Wonderful.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. And Phyllis, you have arrived.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Young. I am the president of the board for Heart of Ellsworth. I'm also the interim director at Woodlawn Museum here in Ellsworth. Lived in Ellsworth, born in Ellsworth, lived in Ellsworth the majority of my life so far. Lived away for like 7 or 8 years, I guess. And just want to hear more about the 4 points and
Great. Thank you. And Cara, I would be wrong if I did not give you the floor for some welcoming remarks or introduction.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate it, and I've been anticipating this workshop for a long time. So there you go, Ann.
Great, great, great. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I know it's not easy to, be doing this work at this time with the pandemic. I know it's not easy to come out in the middle of the workday for a training. I know that downtown volunteers are some of the hardest working volunteers ever in this type of volunteer world, doing all sorts of things, from helping with events and taking out the trash to trying to raise money to trying to build relationships. And I just want to thank you all for your commitment to this work. And let me just get this going. I would like this to be conversational, and feel free to use the chat feature, which I think you guys use Zoom regularly, right, Cara? So use the chat feature or wave to get our attention. Joanna and Adam are helping flag, something that I might miss. And let me know if you have questions. But I'm really glad to be here and glad we're doing this. A few things we're going to touch on, just the structure of the program, some of the benefits of a membership for Heart of Ellsworth, and then the Main Street 4-point approach is the bulk of what we're going to talk about. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our regular sponsors that enable us to do our work statewide. As you guys know, you are one of 17 downtown affiliates, and then we have 10 main streets that we work in as well. So some of you know this, but I'm just going to remind you that this program, the National Main Street Center, started as a demonstration project in like 1977 at the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And then over the years, in the last 10 years, actually, the Main Street program, the National Main Street Center, spun off as its own nonprofit, but it still has a relationship with the National Trust. And that's all because this is really economic development grounded in historic preservation. So that's kind of what it is at the national level. And this is just kind of that chart, right? You have the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the National Main Street Center, And then we serve as the statewide coordinator. There are not 50 coordinating programs, but there's a good number, 40 something. And then within the state of Maine, as I said, we have 10 main streets and 17 downtown affiliates. You guys, Ellsworth, are part of this family, 1,600 organizations. And that's pretty impressive. You, you know, applied and went through a application process to be accepted into the program. And that is really quite something, and we're so happy to have you as part of this family. And that downtown center, we have our own mission. We live in MDF, Maine Development Foundation, which is a statewide nonprofit devoted to economic development. And the downtown center really lays out all the other work MDF is doing, from economic research to leadership development. It's really, that is what we do. And let's see, I have to let in one more person. There we go. So as I said, we have 10 main streets that are fully accredited, and they go through an annual accreditation process, and they have a full-time director. And then we have the 17 affiliates. Okay, there we go, which you guys are part of. And this is a group that is primarily all volunteer. Bucksport has staff and Ellsworth has staff at this point. Most of these, I'd say half are standalone nonprofits, or a third, and then the other, the other half are housed in their municipality. We know from best practices that being a standalone nonprofit is going to lead to success. It's very hard to be housed in the municipality and trying to raise money. It just doesn't work. I'm not going to go through these too much text, but we are required to have a director to support you and to provide technical assistance and trainings. And the one thing that's always nice to know is if your municipality applies for CDBG money, you get 3 bonus points. So your municipality should be aware of that. So before I go into the approach itself, are there any questions on the structure of the program?
And one question on that last.
Yes.
You said the municipality, the CDBG.
Yes,
what is that acronym for?
I should have said that, Julie. Thank you. Community Development Block Grant, which is actually federal HUD money that comes to the state and then is administered by our Department of Economic and Community Development. And typically that funding is for a lot of things like infrastructures, sewers, sidewalks, but they do have a small pot of money that is for specifically downtown revitalization. And so communities often apply and then they're told you're gonna get it, but it'll be 2 years. One of the members of our advisory council works for DECD and oversees that program, Terry Ann Holden. Other questions or comments?
We know if the city of Ellsworth has ever applied for that grant?
You know, I would assume, Julie, that they have. And it's something that you could talk to someone at the city about, or I could put you in touch with CDBG staff directly. Most communities in Maine benefit from some CDBG money. I mean, it can help in, like I said, you know, rebuilding a sewer system. Rumford has a big project going right now that's CDBG funded. So I would assume at some point you have, but I'm not sure what the projects are. Let's see, it looks like we have a question in the chat. Oh, thank you. Last city application that was funded in CDBG was 2016. Thanks, Cara, for finding that for me. Okay, so you ready to get into the 4 points and what this is? This 40-year-old methodology that you guys are implementing at the local level. That's what this is. Okay, let me close the chat. Okay, so this is the graphic of the 4-point approach. And what we're going to talk about is those 4 points in the 4 colored bands across the bottom: design, organization, promotion, and economic vitality. Do those terms sound somewhat familiar to you guys? A lot of main streets and affiliates have committees by those names. It's not required, but sometimes organizations at the local level are organized with that. We try to organize our work to you in that way. When we're giving trainings or, you know, applying for grants, we often ground that work in these 4 points. These are the points that 40 years ago, the National Trust said, this is what's going to make a difference in a downtown. This is what's going to move that downtown forward as an economic engine, focusing on those 4 points. And a couple of years ago, the National Main Street Center updated this 4-point approach and did lots of good things. They said, they verbalized, they may have known this all along, but they verbalized that you can't do the work unless it's grounded in a community vision or an understanding of what the community wants for their downtown and an understanding of the market. What would the market support in that downtown? So the work is now very directly grounded in those 2 things. And then it's also grounded in the other end on the outcomes, both quantitative and qualitative. You got to measure. You have to prove that it's working. And if it's not, tweak what you're doing and that kind of thing. And then the other overlay that's new is a transformation strategy. And that's something that you as a brand new affiliate may or may not have had discussions about. I would not expect that you have, other than the fact that Cara is a pretty superstar director of a young organization and probably is aware of this, and you may have talked about it, but there's no expectation. It's kind of a step 2. So today we're going to go over the 4 points, and then briefly at the end, I'll tell you about what the transformation strategies are. And Cara, could you let me know if you guys have talked about that at all?
We have, and each person on the board and some of the volunteers that are currently on this call, everyone is sort of assigned to one of these 4 points.
Oh, great. And were those assignments based on people's passions and interests and skills, or was it more random in assignment?
No, everyone sort of picked their own. We sent them the graphic, and then we made sort of a Google sheet that just had the description, very short description of each of the 4 points we're going to cover, and they all picked where they wanted to be.
Great. And just so you guys know, all of this work in these 4 points can't happen without collaboration. So whether you are collaborating with your municipality on changing a crosswalk location or changing the timing of lights, or you want to put in a painted crosswalk, your partner is the municipality or public works or potentially fire and rescue, if you're changing a street shape. And same with like promotion and bringing events downtowns. So we'll get into it, but the concept of collaboration is really key to all of your work, no matter what you're doing. And I am just gonna go by that slide because I meant to delete it. So we're gonna talk about organization. And in many organizations, downtown organizations, organization has a committee that is sometimes called the executive committee, or it's called the organization committee and has many functions of the organization and executive committee and things like human resources. This is like the area which focuses on civic engagement and like the political environment of the community. And you as an organization committee are really building like the strong base of your whole organization with things like volunteer recruitment and leadership development. So that would mean things like your nominating committee. You're also doing like a development strategy and fundraising, or setting that strategy for the organization, and programmatic communication. So that's the kind of thing that happens in organization. Any questions on that? Or could you tell me, Cara, how that work is currently getting done in Heart of Ellsworth?
Yeah, thanks for, this is very eye-opening. And I have to say, I'm totally relieved that that is exactly what organization is, because we already have, of course, an executive committee,
right,
and all of that stuff is being funneled through there. So this is great.
Good. Okay, that's great. So you guys have set it up that you have an executive committee. I'm sure that makes sense. And that group is also probably monitoring your bylaws and things, you know, as they make decisions, any sort of strategic planning, you know, your mission statement, your vision, like your community impact. So that sounds great.
And I also just want to put a flag, Anne, in the fact that that was one of the biggest recommendations prior to our application, our affiliate application, and the bylaws have been updated and are complete.
Yay, I'd love to have a copy.
Sure, we'll get you a copy.
Thank you. Great. So this is an event that happened in downtown Rockland, and it was actually done through their organization or their executive committee. And in a way, it seems like it could go lots of places. But they were working on trying to keep, you know, they'd heard concerns in the community about the ice on the sidewalks during the winter, and the fact that the dog walkers' pets were getting raw from the salt being used. So they were like, well, us as the downtown organization, we need to care holistically about allowing our residents and their dogs to walk safely through the downtown in the winter, safe from ice, but keep their pets safe. And so as an organization, they partnered with their pet store, Loyal Biscuit, and started promoting this Paw Thaw product. So it's kind of an interesting thing for their organization committee or their executive committee to kind of take on. I'm sure there were other partners from the promotions and things like that, but I just put it out there as an example of something that mattered holistically to the downtown as well as the organization. And then another thing is like award winners, things like celebrating your volunteers during National Volunteer Month, which is in May, I think, or having an annual meeting where you may acknowledge board members who are stepping off. So the celebrating, the cultivating of volunteers is really a thing that happens within that organization committee. And economic vitality. So I have a little note I want to find, bear with me. So this is really obviously addressing the economic value of the downtown. The committee works on learning about the marketplace and educating existing businesses, real estate development, possibly creating incentives and business development. It's a committee that often works very closely with the municipality, especially a municipality that has an economic development director. It's also a committee that could partner with their chamber, because the chamber may usually has a broader mission and is all businesses, whereas the downtown organization is focusing specifically on the downtown. So maybe it's something that your work complements or enhances what the chamber and the municipality are doing. It can involve lots of things like surveys and getting data and doing exit surveys from businesses and finding out who's coming to downtown, how long are they staying, and what are they doing, you know, and what are their challenges, what's working for them, what isn't, are they going to come back, how often do they come back, you know, all sorts of things like that. And we have lots of surveys and samples, things like that to share. So that's pretty much what economic vitality is. Any questions on this area before I go any deeper? And like I said, feel free to use that chat feature. Great. And just so you know, each one of these 4 points, you could probably talk about for a full hour. Today is meant to be like a high level, just kind of ground you in the approach. And, you know, we often work with individual committees maybe that are working on a work plan or, you know, or trying to get, like I said, sample surveys. Like, we will support your committees in however we can. So this is a program that happened in Biddeford, and they worked very closely with their municipality to, you know, develop an incentive package to bring businesses downtown that they needed. This was specifically related to bringing some restaurants downtown. They knew that that was something they lacked. Of course, now Biddeford has like James Beard award-winning restaurants, but this is from 2012, as you can see the date. So it is something that the Economic Vitality Committee, along with the board, obviously, and the municipality kind of teamed up to figure out how could they do a business recruiting program. In Skowhegan, they do like a competition to fund a startup business and give them temporary space downtown. It's not a big grant, it's not 20,000, I think it's more like 5 to 10,000, but they've found a property owner that will give the business a storefront if needed, donated, plus like 5 to 10,000 to get the business off the ground. So it's kind of like I think Top Gun is another name for these type of competitions, entrepreneurial challenge, things like that. So it's a great thing for a Economic Vitality Committee to engage in. And it really, like I said, leverages the public funds, it engages private property owners. And this competition resulted in 3 new businesses for Heart of Biddeford, or for downtown. So, promotion. So I would say this is the low-hanging fruit of Main Street. It's an easy committee to understand. I think a lot of people just get it. This is the social value of your downtown and bringing people downtown to enjoy your downtown and experience whatever it is, music, arts, retail activities, tasting, you know, beer. It really, you know, can take all different forms. And you guys have a lot of great events. You have your Taste of Ellsworth. Are you still doing the cider and cheese again?
God willing, we get this next grant, yes.
Cider and cheese. You know, there are all sorts of possibilities for promotions and events. And I have a couple slides of some examples. Art walks, walking tours. The bottom picture is Skowhegan's Brew Fest. A major event like a Skowhegan Brew Fest, you're not gonna see a sustainable event until 3 or 4 years out. So it takes a lot of planning. It takes looking ahead and forecasting your budget to align with not seeing maybe a financial benefit until that 3 to 4 years. I don't know if you've seen that with your Taste of Ellsworth as one of your major events, right, Cara?
Yeah, we were lucky with the timing and the generous support from our community, and that one has been profitable from the onset. So we've been very lucky.
That's great.
Same with cider and cheese so far.
And I would say Skowhegan also was lucky with their Brewfest. They had built a 3-year budget to support the event, and they started evening out after the 2nd year. So they were really pleased as well. But events is really a chance to be creative, of course. You know, sidewalk parties, Pumpkin Fest in Westbrook, just lots of ways to kind of enliven the spaces and bring people downtown. Any questions or thoughts on promotion? Okay, I'll keep going on then. And the last category is really looking at your physical space downtown and really improving the appearance of the commercial district. This is where your historic preservation work falls, and you guys have a historic preservation commission, correct? Or you're not a commission, you're remind me of what the structure is.
They are part of, so there's a historical society, and then there's a commission. That's right.
There is a commission, okay.
Commission, yeah.
Right, so that's where this work falls. And there is gobs and gobs of economic research that really talks about the value of place and the value of green space, the value of trail connectivity. These are all where these design aspects fall. And it can involve a lot of education. You know, not everybody sees it that way. We have some communities that have many vacant storefronts right now. Some of them are property owners that live out of state, and you know, ideally you want to engage those property owners in caring for their buildings and making a nice public facade so that people will feel comfortable and interested in walking downtown. There's also all those studies about kind of empty storefronts. You know, people aren't comfortable walking down the street sometimes if there's not life and light and vibrancy. And that's another good reminder, is design is not just design during the day, it is design in the evening and thinking about lighting. And protection and management, that really speaks to historic districts. And again, really taking, being good stewards of your National Register properties and district. So that is what design is all about, and I have some examples. Pretty amazing facade change in Portland, actually, which is not one of our communities, but it's such a good slide that I have used it. And right now, a number of our main streets have facade improvement programs that are housed in the municipalities. And what we always encourage the main streets and affiliates to do is to get involved, you know, serve on that committee, ask your municipality whether you could provide some expertise on this type of work. You know, it helps, it could be an architect, it could just be someone who's really interested in history or preservation, but it involves a lot of things like reviewing plans and, you know, what are the materials and what are the changes you're making. And this is just really a quite incredible change, but I'm sure, you know, you have buildings in downtown Ellsworth where you'd love to have facade improvements. Also, we applied for a grant through the National Main Street Center to be one of the states implementing the Historic Commercial District Revolving Fund. So we applied and we had 3 of our main streets that we used in our application. They were Biddeford, Gardner, and Skowhegan. And we got the award, which was very excited. So we are working with those 3 communities and National Main Street Center, and we have $150,000 forever to have a revolving fund. So the 3 communities I mentioned are the first communities involved. And it's a 3-year program. The pandemic has slowed the work on this project, but it is an interest-free loan for 3 years for property owners to make improvements. And because of the pandemic, they don't even have to start paying it back until 6 months after they get the money. It's pretty unbelievable. And they've lowered the match requirement. I don't know that those 2 features will stick forever, but my point is, after our cycle with Skowhegan, Biddeford, and Gardner, we will be opening it up to our other communities to say, would you like to have this program in your community? And basically what it is it's enough money for 5 projects. So I tell you that example for 2 reasons. One, it speaks to the kind of thing that we do. That's the kind of thing we always do. We are looking for funding. We are trying to figure out resources we can get to our local programs. And then I show it because I also want you to know that if you stay in the program, which I'm assuming you will, you could be one of the communities to join that program in another couple of years. Any questions? Yes, let me see what the chat says. Thank you, Julie. Julie says, heck yes, we could find 5 businesses that could benefit from that program. That's great. That's the kind of enthusiasm we really need, because as you can imagine, in a pandemic, and Julie, you know this well, working for a bank, not everybody's too keen on taking out loans right now. But on the other hand, it's an excellent time to be thinking of doing this type of work. In an economic recovery, which I don't know that we're in yet, but we will be, it's really important to think about these types of visual downtown improvements. It's just really a way to say we're still here. We look good. Thanks, John. John says he heard that. And it will come, Julie, you're right. So do you know if your municipality in Ellsworth has discussed facade improvements at any time?
At one point in time, there was a CBDG
Yes.
grant that went through, but I believe the facade one was back in maybe 2007, I think.
Okay, yeah. So that is the case, that CDBG can be used for facade improvements specifically. Thanks, John.
I would bet dollars to donuts that it might have had something to do with Ken Schweikart, if we ever had one, and downtown revitalization. If I had to guess, I worked for him for 10 years. So I would guess that he was very into the downtown.
Yeah.
When we had before we had Heart of Ellsworth and we had the Downtown Merchants Association.
Right, that's right. I knew I recognized the name, and that's why, Julie. Thank you for reminding me of that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have a beautiful downtown architecturally. Really do. And, you know, things like facade improvement programs, you know, they reinforce community pride. There's so many benefits to it. And then they're clearly tied to economic development as well. So it's something like to plant a seed with Heart of Ellsworth that, like, maybe this could come back someday, you know, with the municipality or through a program like ours. Feel free to chime in if you have other comments or questions. Let's see, I'm trying to get to another slide. There we go. So I put these examples up here because design can be a big infrastructure project, like on the left, which is Westbrook, and that is a bridge going from their downtown over to 2 mills. That mill that was redone was a large preservation tax credit project, and I think it has, it's one of the large healthcare providers in it. I'm not sure if it's Maine Health. But anyway, the bridge is obviously functional, but it also is beautiful. They used paint colors that, you know, were sensitive to everything else, and like the wood floor across it. I mean, they really did make decisions. It wasn't just plop down a bridge. Big project, of course, but the design matters. You know, there's a new bridge going in downtown Gardner. And again, the design matters. And Main Street and affiliates should be at the table with their municipalities on projects big and small, is my point of that. And then in the upper right-hand corner, just a great bike rack from Norway. Norway Downtown is the name of the organization. That's their logo that is like a cutout in the bike rack. So the bike rack says so much to me. First of all, the community values riding and cycling and healthy communities, and they want to have a place for that bike rack. So that's one thing. And just the fact that the downtown organization has their logo on it. Again, they happen to be using green again because that's what fit. Just a great, simple design element in the downtown. And that is the type of thing like lamp posts that also sometimes can be funded through CDBG money, which again reinforces your relationship with your municipality. And then the third example in the middle, that is, that's Gardner actually. And that is a really simple, low budget, wonderful design project. Those fish actually move in the wind, and they used fishing rods because they bend and move, and they put them in these heavy buckets with you know, rocks and some mulch in them, and they put them all over the downtown. It just was simple, and it's just one of my favorite little things, and it just really shows kind of the simple, low cost, you know, the quicker, lighter, cheaper, and then the big infrastructure. And yes, Julie, I'm happy to share the slides with you guys, absolutely, when you're done, when I'm done. Yep. So other thoughts about design in downtown Ellsworth? Things you're working on? Who's on the design committee or working on that bucket? Anybody on the Zoom call today?
I am.
Oh, great. So what have you guys been talking about with your group?
We haven't had a group meeting yet because this was newly formed.
No problem.
My passion is green space in downtown, so I hope that we can bring a lot more of that, even if they're small, you know.
Absolutely. And I would say Ellsworth is a community I often hold up because of your work on green space. And I may have the initiative's name wrong. Was it something like Greening Ellsworth? Was that what it was called? And it was okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I had it right. So yes, green space is critical to design. There is a program called Project Canopy that you could apply for trees planted downtown. It's a great program. I think they only have the application once or twice a year, but you could Google Project Canopy, or we can send you that information. I'm making a note. There are pocket park concepts, and certainly with the pandemic, I could have showed you 20 slides of the way communities have been bumping out their sidewalks into parking spaces to create outdoor seating. Interestingly, the food co-op has some seating there that's pre-pandemic, but that's the kind of thing, bringing people to have places to sit, pocket parks to enjoy music or art or food carts. I mean, there are all sorts of great examples of green space and greening your downtowns, without a doubt. In fact, Cara, I think the email late yesterday from National Main Street Center was about green spaces downtown. I don't know if you saw that, but I'll look for that to send you. Okay.
Was the AARP partnership?
No, this was another one. It's one of their new blog posts. I'll look for it, and maybe you can share it with your design group because it's specifically talking about green space. So I'll look for that. Yeah.
It should be mentioned that Amy has done a phenomenal job taking a very uninteresting, boring little park and made it quite beautiful. So it's not that she hasn't been doing something. She really did it looks amazing.
That's so great.
It was a vacant lot. It was a little scary, but the city had no problem turning it over to be improved. So
well, what did you do to it, Amy? Tell us.
Well, I just the timing was great because when I discovered that it was actually town property, and I approached the city, they were expecting to dig it all up because they were putting in an electric car charging station adjacent to it. So they said if I could wait until the end of June, that they would have that all dug up, and then the soil put back down. And they even found a really big granite rock to bring in and put in the middle. So that was nice. But then it was just a matter of making some raised beds. And there were some tough spots because they plow into it. So
yeah,
it's very shaded, but my husband and I limbed the trees and then got donated plants. A lot of them were mine, but a lot came from some friends.
wow.
So we've got and there are 2 benches. Somebody donated a picnic table. But it's a great little oasis out of the heat because it is completely shaded. It's got 7 oak trees that kind of canopy it. So it's
That is so great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
But actually, the real start of it was that Amy just made her husband mow the lawn. That's literally how it started. I mean, they just took this initiative to mow this lawn that was a mess. And
well,
then
it was actually, there was no lawn. The city planted grass, and then that didn't grow after they planted.
There were a lot of weeds. But
it was just rough all the way around. But it was great, and people are using it every day. They're using it, and the Down East Horizons people put one of those little library things that you see on the corner, like it's just
like little free libraries.
Yeah, a little free library right there. So as I watch, because I go down and I'm fussy about the cigarette butts being thrown all over the place. So I'm picking up those, and I saw a man plug in his car, go over to the little free library, pick out a book, sit on the bench, wait while his car charged. He put the book back, he unplugged, and drove away. It was so nice to see it being used for.
Okay, that is a really great case study. And I don't know who from Heart of Ellsworth has the extra time, but I would love a photograph of that park and a couple paragraphs about the story. And the fact that Peter mentioned that it started with mowing the lawn, I want you to remember the word incremental. It is one of the basic, 8 points of Main Street work is that things happen incrementally. And what you said, the lawn got mowed, and then someone was like, wow, this place looks nice. It would look even nicer if A, B, C, right? And these little things happened. And then the other thing it speaks to me, is just the commitment of, volunteers and how you and your husband made this happen. It's a great story. I really thank you.
I have before and after pictures, so.
Oh, great. I would love that. And the other thing you should know about electric car charging stations is that those are little economic drivers. And I sat on the statewide committee to select where those electric car chargers would go, which communities would be funded, and blah, blah, blah. So of course I was like, downtowns, downtowns are the way to make it happen, because that man chose to sit and read a book, but some people would say, I'm going to stroll into town and get a cup of coffee. Norway has a charger downtown, and it literally provides a constant stream, and it's only going to increase. So that's a great story. Thank you. Just a couple more slides. I want to show you an example of, hold on, the old transformational strategy, now that we went over what the 4 points are. So, and this kind of fits with Ellsworth, right? Let's say that the downtown organization says, we really are an arts destination. We have the Grand, we have, art walks, and that's what we want to focus on. That's what we think fits in all of our buckets of work. So this just shows you how the transformational strategy, what it means. What does it really look like with design? Murals, things like that. from the organization, wow, we really need to have an artist on our board, or a promotion. We're going to have, you know, an art walk or arts related events. And then from economic vitality, wow, really go big. We need studios downtown. How are we going to attract and retain these businesses? So that's kind of how the transformational strategy works. And, you know, the best case scenario is that this is your goal. You work towards having 1 or 2 transformational strategies. And sometimes it's really hard to pick one. But that's where your board's really good work would go. I think I have another example related to aging in place, right? Same idea. You know, how do you make all your work, all your 4 points kind of have that focus? So pretty self-explanatory. And I think that is my last slide, but let me double check. It is. So, other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Great.
How are some of the other towns dealing with the fact, you know, we have all these events that we've had to postpone or cancel. And I was curious how other towns are dealing with that, because you showed us slides of, you know, a pumpkin festival.
Right.
You know, I assume all these towns are kind of not doing those things this year. How are they, or are they, is there anything that they're doing in its place?
So we had a workshop with the National Main Street Center on Monday that Cara attended. It was on fundraising and financial management, and we did touch upon events. And we certainly are talking to our communities all the time about this, because you're right, Peter, you can't have a large scale brew fest like you have in the past. So I can tell you,
they also are money makers for us to keep
exactly. So I'm hoping that Cara got some good ideas out of Monday. Joanna sent out the recording of the workshop this morning, I think, which Cara can also share with you guys. So what we're seeing is like adaptation and innovation. This morning, Skowhegan Brewfest announced Brew in a Box, I think is what it was called. And so they recognize that that is still a significant need of money for their organization. So what could they do that was not an in-person event? And so they've teamed up, I believe, with the grain maker, mainly grains, the brewers that are in the Somerset County region, and then I don't know what the other thing is, maybe like a mug maker or something. And they've done Brew in a Box, and they are asking people to like still think about brewing in Maine. We've set our date for 2021 and buy this box, the Brew in a Box. And Adam and Joanna, please feel free to chime in since we are all kind of processing these virtual ideas to share with Peter. Let's see. And Cara, other ideas. I heard recently a very traditional fundraiser was held, something they have every year in a downtown. And obviously they couldn't do it, and they decided to have some entertainment. It was called like something on the sofa. And it was basically, they brought in the musical artists. They had a virtual tip jar. They found sponsors that were willing to pay the musicians, and they did like a whole music night, you know, on your computer with raising money for the organization. So they were able to bring live music virtually to that particular community. And on Monday, our speaker shared fresh local ice cream from the local dairy that was delivered during a virtual meeting to everybody who had signed up. So you're on this, it wasn't a meeting, that's the wrong word, an event, and someone knocks on your door and is like, here's your fresh ice cream, you got this flavor. And there was like you know, conversation about the ice cream. So people are thinking out of the box, Peter, and we're sharing as many ideas as we can.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments about that intro to the 4 points?
I have a quick question.
Sure. We have 2 minutes.
Yep. You gave us some examples of sort of overall sort of strategies on how to sort of direct our community in a way of revitalization. And one that you gave was aging in place, and the other one was sort of cultural district type of thing.
Yeah.
Would there be other ways of being able to find out how other communities, maybe not just around Maine, but all over the country, like other identifying sort of values, or not values isn't the right word, but I think you know what I'm asking.
So other examples of transformation strategies?
Yeah, but specifically like a direction to go in. Both of these I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are examples. Every possible Main Street, Cara, is working on or has identified transformation strategies. Agricultural, local food, you know, all sorts of things. So if you could literally dig, you know, any Main Street and like a part of the country that you've been to, and it's like, oh, I wonder what their transformational strategy is, and pick it up that way. Does that answer your question?
Yep, it does. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Great. So that is it. And it is 12:59. Thank you again for all of your time and your participation. And please know that Joanna, Adam, and myself and me, we are all available as you might need it for help with your board. You know, we can definitely do other trainings as needed, as Phyllis and Cara know. And I hope that this kind of grounded you in the methodology you are doing the good work in. That's it.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you,
You're
Anne.
welcome. Okay, and I'll send you the recording link, Cara.